Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Pandora White. I am a former Gilman Alumni Ambassador, and I received the Gilman Scholarship a while ago. I attended Alcorn State University and graduated with my bachelor's in chemistry. I went on to the University of Alabama, where I graduated with my PhD in biochemistry. And so today I'm going to talk to you about something that changed my life, something that made me find out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And so this is a very personal topic for me, and so hopefully you'll enjoy my story and you'll see where I'm coming from. So, in fall of 2012, I had the opportunity to go to Ghana and to study for a semester. And it made me interested in health, in global health, and in health disparities. This experience, I think, made me really see what I was capable of and what I could do. Alright, so to really understand why this experience was so impactful on me, I need to tell you a little bit about myself, especially what was going on in my mind back when I was in undergraduate. So first of all, I'm from Fayette, Mississippi, and it's a very small town in Mississippi. It's in the rural area, and so my hometown only had about 2,000 people. My graduating high school class had about 50 people. And so for me, I just really wanted to see the world. You know, you see this one place that looks like everything you always know. And I was like, there has to be more in the world. And so I was a first generation college student, low income. And then there's also the fact that I was a minority in STEM. And so for me, you know, just going to college was a big deal. And I never thought about the things that you could experience in college. I just knew I wanted to go to college. I didn't know that there was other things besides studying that you could do to enrich your life. Right. So as a child, one of the things that I loved the most, I loved reading. So every time you would find me, I was reading these books, and I also watched a lot of anime. So for me, I just wanted to see, like, was the world the way these books depicted? Because everything was so foreign to me, you know? So I wanted to know whether or not in Asia, did people really wear kimonos in Japan? Or did people really, you know, think about things that I thought about? So I was interested in seeing those kinds of things. Now, I had heard about study abroad. So before I went to college, I had no idea study abroad existed. Like I said, I was the first generation, so nobody in my family knew what to expect from this college. And I would walk around and I saw like pamphlets sometimes, and I was like, that sounds like fun, but I don't think it's for me. So I came up with all types of reasons about why I couldn't study abroad. And so one of them was I was a STEM major. And I felt that you couldn't do chemistry in another country, you know? When you saw, or for me, the pamphlets that I saw were always about history or art or foreign language. And I'm like, I need inorganic chemistry. I need physical chemistry. I don't have time to be taking classes that are not required for my major. The other thing was, when I really started considering it, it just felt like time was just passing me by, you know? Like, next thing I know, I'm like an upperclassman, and so I didn't see how this would fit in, especially when you're in a STEM major. And for us, the chemistry is really, you know, specific. You got to take these classes in your freshman year, you got to take these in your sophomore. And I didn't want to have to spend extra years trying to make up classes for studying abroad. So that was another reason why I came up. The third thing was, I'm like, I don't speak a foreign language, and I felt that you needed to know a language to go to another country. And then my last reason was I just didn't have the money. Like, I barely had enough money to pay for college. I had a part-time job. I was a work-study student, and I still was barely making it. So I'm like, I don't have money to be tramping around in some foreign country when I need to be focused on my education here in America, and I just need to graduate, right? Now, all of that changed one day just because somebody stopped me. Right, so I went to Alcorn State University, and at that time, somebody just by word of mouth was like, yo, did you know you can get a couple $1,000s if you study Chinese? And I'm like, really? I can get a couple thousand? At this time, I'm telling you, I didn't have like hardly no money, so $2,000 to study, that sounded like a dream come true. So I went to the Office of Global Programming to find out, what about this free money? And so what happened was they were actually running a program kind of in conjunction with the Fullbright foreign language assistance. And so they were offering some critical needs languages such as Chinese and Arabic, and just trying to get you to learn some of the basics. And it wasn't a class that was like approved for credit. It was just something you did on your own, and you got the scholarship. So I was already kind of interested in Asia because I had Japanese cartoons, and I read these books. And so learning Chinese, I was like, I could do that. I like Chinese food, whatever. So I'm sitting there every day studying Chinese. And then I realized, I'm sitting in the place where they do all the paperwork for these study abroad programs. And so one day somebody was like, Pandora, why don't you study abroad? So they was like, Pandora, why don't you study abroad? And I'm like, I got my reasons. All right, and remember, my reasons was I was a STEM major. And they were like, okay, so you can do it. And I'm like, I'm an upperclassman. They're like, you can transfer your classes in for your major. I was like, I don't speak a foreign language. And they were like, does it matter? And I was like, I don't have money. And they told me, that there was a scholarship for people who received the Pell Grant, and that scholarship would help you pay for the program. Also, any financial aid that you're receiving in America could be applied to that study abroad program. And so for me, I had my student loans, I had my Pell Grant, and I got the Gilman. And so that paid for my program. And so it just depends on how your situation is. But depending on the country, sometimes it's actually cheaper to do that semester abroad. Alright, so now I'm going to tell you more specifics about applying the program, what's eligible, and things like that. So the Gilman Scholarship is run by the Department of State, the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. All right, it advances foreign policy goals by increasing and diversifying U.S. study abroad through programs for both individuals and institutions. It is for Americans studying abroad to connect with their peers, share U.S. cultures and values, and build the people-to-people relationships that are the bedrock of diplomacy. Studying abroad helps our future leaders develop the skills and networks they need to advance national security. Okay. For more information, you can go to exchanges.state.gov or studyabroad.state.gov. Now, Gilman programs impact. And this is the people that it affects. And one of those is that 47% of the recipients are first-generation college students. 65% represents racial and ethnic minorities. Over 31,000 U.S. undergraduates of high financial need have received these. They went on to over 150 countries, and over 1,300 U.S. institutions are represented in these awards. And so I think this just speaks to the fact that you can really go pretty much anywhere in the world. You can come from any school. You can have any background, and you can still do the Gilman. Alright. So there are over 3,500 scholarships offered each year. These scholarships are up to $5,000, and they are offered for fall, spring, summer, or winter sessions. So they can be for any semester that you want to go. Or you can also do the whole academic year. Now, there is also another component of the Gilman, and it's called the Critical Need Language Award. That's for up to another $3,000 plus access to proficiency testing. Alright, now the critical need languages are languages that are crucial for America. Alright, and so this is a list of the languages that are critical to America. And so you need to go to a country that is primarily speaks one of these languages, and you can receive up to $3,000 additional dollars. You do need to write an additional essay for this, and you will be considered for it. Now, your eligibility. So what makes you eligible to apply for a Gilman? You need to be a U.S. citizen. You need to be a U.S. undergraduate student. You need to be receiving the Pell Grant. You need to be in a program where you actually get credit for it. Alright, and so the minimum amount of time that your Gilman can be 3 weeks if you are in a 4-year institution program, or 2 weeks if you are at a community college. Now, this is so like if you're doing an internship or something like that, you can still do it. And some of those like take place in the summer, and they may be more condensed in a full academic program. But as long as you're getting credit for it, then it's okay. And it also needs to take place in the country with an overall travel advisory level of 1 or 2, because they don't want you to go places that are extremely hazardous to your health. Now, recently they came out with a new kind of scholarship, and it's called the Gilman McCain Scholarship. And this is for up to $5,000 for child dependents of active duty service members. To be eligible, you must be a U.S. citizen. You must be an undergraduate student. You must be the recipient of any type of Title IV federal financial aid. You also need to be in a credit-bearing program. So it's not just enough just to say you're studying abroad. You need to be getting college credit for it. And it also needs to be a minimum of 3 weeks if you're at a 4-year institution, or 2 weeks if you're at a 2-year institution. Again, the country needs to have an overall travel advisory level of 1 or 2. And you must be a dependent of an active duty military member. And so the application process is very similar to the other Gilman Scholarship. The only difference is you have to indicate that you are a dependent of an active duty military member. Alright, so now we're going to talk about how to apply for this scholarship. 1, you're going to do an online application. You're going to identify what your study abroad program is. You're going to submit some essays, some transcripts, and you're going to select advisors You're going to have 2 advisors. You're going to have a study abroad advisor and a financial aid advisor. All right, so once you get all that paperwork in, your advisors are going to certify your application. And then you'll submit it, and then you'll wait and see what happens. So now I'm going to tell you about those essays. All right, so that first essay is going to be a statement of purpose. This is where you're going to say, what are you going to do? You're going to talk about the program that you're going in, your goals, a little bit about you. And so you need to consider this as your interview, basically. Right? Because you may not talk to someone one-on-one about this program. And so this is a way to say, I want to do this. And this is why I want to do this. And this is how this ties into my future goals and why it's necessary that I do this. Alright, and so this essay is about 1.5 pages. You're also going to talk about, how you meet challenges. Right? And so remember, everybody who's applying for this scholarship has some financial need. So you can talk about that, or you can talk about other challenges that you had in your life. All right? So the next essay is the community impact essay. All right? So when you're doing things like this and you're going to these new locations, you are essentially becoming a citizen diplomat. All right, and so what that means is that sometimes, depending on the country that you choose, you may be the only American in that classroom or at that internship, and you may be the first one that someone has had the chance to interact with in that country. And so you are going to have to say, how are you going to represent America a little bit? How are you going to interact with people, right? And then when you come back to America, you are supposed to inspire others to study abroad. So what are you going to do when you get back? Are you going to do something on campus? Are you going to do something in your community? And you're going to talk about that plan. All right, you're going to say who you're going to reach out to, how you're going to reach out to them, and what's that timeline. And so this used to be known as a follow-on project, and now it's known as the community impact. And so for me at that time, I said that when I was going to get back, I was going to I said that while I was in the country, I was going to write a blog. And at that time, my camera broke, the internet was spotty, and writing that blog seemed impossible. So I said that when I was going to come back, I was going to do an article in the paper or something. That fell through. And so the Gilman Scholarship, they were really nice about it. And so when I changed it, they allowed me to make the changes that I needed depending on my situation. So when you're writing these, don't think about what you can't do, but make a compelling argument for what your project is going to be. You don't have to talk about plans A through Z, because we know that it will probably change a little bit when you get in country. Alright, and then this last essay is an optional essay, but if you are applying for the critical need language essay, first you need to ask yourself, is it a critical need language? So refer to that list that I told you earlier. Is it predominantly spoken in the country you're going to? How does this relate to your academic or career goals? So for me right now, if I was going to study, at one time I was doing research in India. And so some of those languages, local dialects, are critical need languages. And so for me at that time, if I actually knew how to speak that, it would have helped me interact with the population that I was studying with or interacting with. And my goal was related to global health, and so I needed to know that language. So if you can find a way to tie it all together, you should speak to that in your essay. And it's going to be about the motivations for improving your language proficiency academically, professionally, and also personally. And I think that's one thing that I like about the Gilman, is that it's not just about your academics. They care about where you at right now as a student, where you're going to be doing after you graduate, and then how does that relate to what's inside, so your personal. All right. So to be selected for a Gilman, all right, these are the things that they care about: your preparedness, our impact on students' academic and career trajectory. All right, so the Gilman does not have a minimum GPA requirement. However, your university in America may have one. And so they may not allow you to do this study abroad program if you don't meet their GPA requirements. So you have to check with your local university or the university that you're attending about that. Then they want to talk about the diversity of background and experience. This program seeks participation by the broadest group of American undergraduate students with financial need who will benefit from the knowledge and skills they acquired when studying abroad. All right, and so, by diversity, they don't just mean that you're a minority, but it also includes, first generation students, students in STEM fields, racial and ethnic minorities, students with disabilities, students attending minority serving institutions and community colleges like HBCUs and HSIs, and students from U.S. states with less study abroad population. And so all of this plays a factor, all right? Now, the choice of program and destination. And so you need to, in this application, really make a plea or about why you need to study in that country. Why did you choose it? How does it relate to your academic and career plans? So you may have a connection to a country. In my case, I felt a connection with Ghana because, I'm the descendant of slaves, and a lot of slaves came from West Africa. So I felt like I was going back to the motherland. But, how else would that help me? And so that's why I was like, I wanted to study science. It was in English. It all worked out for me for my future goals. And so you need to make that case when you're writing your application. The next thing is about community impact. So remember, I just told you about that essay. So you need to make sure that you talk about, what are you going to do in that country? Like, how are you going to bring it back to America? So the script of that application plays a part. And then your commitment to proficiency in a critical need language, if you are applying for that supplement. So you need to say, after I get back, what are you going to do to become better at that language? Because it's not just enough that you go and you study the language. You also need to, get better at it. So you need to address that in your essays. All right, and so there are 2 application cycles. The first cycle is when your study abroad program, if it starts from December 2020 to October 2021. And so you would apply for that. Well, the application will open around mid-August. Its deadline is that first Tuesday in October. Your advisors need to get everything in by the second Tuesday in October. And the second cycle is if your program starts in the summer to the fall semester. And so that application opens mid-January. Your application needs to be in that first Tuesday in March, and your advisor needs to get their documentation in by the second Tuesday in March. All right, so what makes a strong application? Plan ahead. You can start now. All right, write those essays. Talk to the study abroad and financial advisors. Research your program and destination options and select a program that meets Gilman eligibility requirements. Invest time in those essays, start early, and have them proofread. Answer all the essay prompts. And so when you applying for these essays, they literally will have a list, and it'll feel like as long as you answer or address each one of those prompts, you'll be fine. Check your application for accuracy, and then know where to get information you need to answer the questions. All right, and so if you need more information, Gilman has a Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. They also have webinars, and they have e-newsletters, and there's also a blog, and everything is hashtag Gilman Scholarship. Alright, so if you are interested in another type of international exchange program, you can look on the Gilman website, which is gilmanscholarship.org. Alright, and then there is the Critical Language Scholarship Program, the Fullbright U.S. Student Program, and I am an alumni ambassador of that. And so you can check out my my other talk that's on the Fullbright program, and then you have the Boren Scholarship and Fellowships. Alright, if you need more information about the Gilman program, email gilman@iie.org. There's their phone number, and you can check out the website, gilmanscholarship.org. If you want to contact me directly because you got questions, alright, remember my name is Dr. Pandora White, and my email would be p.white.alumniambassador@fullbrightmail.org. And so I'm going to use my Fullbright Alumni Ambassador email for study abroad questions. I just want to take this time to thank NOBCChE for allowing me to talk about this program with you, and the Gilman's program for helping me out with these slides. All right, thank you, everybody. Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Pandora White. I am a Fullbright Alumni Ambassador. I did my Fullbright as a U.S. student researcher to Poland in 2016 to 2017. And my research focused on the effects of bitter melon and trivalent chromium on type 2 diabetes. And so today what I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about my project, the process that I went through to become a Fullbrighter, and the ways in which you can apply to do this. So, to start, what is the Fullbright program? So the Fullbright program was created in 1946 by the U.S. Congress. It is sponsored by the U.S. Department of State Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, and it is administered in the U.S. by the IIE. Overseas, it is administered by binational commissions and U.S. embassies. The goal of the program is to foster mutual understanding between nations, advance knowledge across communities, and improve the lives around the world. The Fullbright program strives to ensure that it reflects the diversity of the U.S. society and societies abroad. And they encourage the involvement of people from traditionally underrepresented audiences in all our grants program and other initiatives. Opportunities are open to people regardless of their race, color, national origin, sex, age, religion, geographic location, socioeconomic status, disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Alright, so to be eligible for a Fullbright, you need to be a graduating senior, a recent graduate, a graduate student, early career professionals, including creative and performing artists and musicians. So essentially, you need to have a BS when you start the program. You cannot have obtained a PhD by the start of the program. And it's okay if you're in grad school. So for me, when I did my program, I was actually pursuing my PhD at the time. And so I decided to use this as my dissertation research. And so for me, it fit in best to apply for this when I was finishing up my coursework and I was going into research. Now, you also need to be a U.S. citizen by the application deadline. And every country is different. And so if you have other requirements, such as you need to speak a certain level of Spanish or something, you need to check with that country that you're interested in applying for. Alright, so program types. There are over 2,200 awards available each year, and they go to 140 countries. And so these programs are really broken down into two main types. And the first type is study or research grant, and the other type is called English teaching assistantship. And so for me, what I did was called a study or research grant. And these are for independent research, study, or arts program. And so this is going to be a program or a project that you propose to do. And so you can do it in some projects where you can go through and you can get a master's degree, or you can take classes in a foreign university, or you can propose your own research. And so what that research look like just depends on you. I've seen research projects in all fields, from people doing documentaries and like me, I studied trivalent chromium effects in type 2 diabetes. So there's about 950 awards available each year, and they range from 8 to 10 months, and they're available in 140 countries. What makes the study or research grant very unique is that this is something that you come up with, right? And so you will have to develop your own project if you're going into research. You will have to figure out where you want to do that. You will reach out to people and see if they will let you do that. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Now, the other grant type is called the English teaching assistantship. And there are about 1,250 awards available each year. And it's also for about 8 to 10 months, and it's in around 75 countries. And so what ETAs do is that they help teach English and U.S. culture in the classroom. And so the setting in which an ETA can be, I've seen ETAs that work in primary schools all the way up to secondary. And so I've seen some of them work with teaching academies and helping teachers get better at their English. I've seen them work in the governments and helping the diplomats and government workers improve their English. So what kind of position you have varies depending on the country and the setting and what they want that year. Alright, so award benefits. And so, it costs money to go to another country. And so one of the things that happens is that you have these awards that you get before you go to the country and when you are in the country. And so, one, you're going to get round trip airfare. So going there is going to be free. The second thing you're going to get is a monthly stipend. And this stipend should be enough money to cover your expenses and make sure that you don't really need anything. That amount varies depending on country to country. And so for me in Poland, let's just say I had enough money that I felt like I was rich for the first time. I didn't make a lot. I think I would have made enough to be at minimum wage for Americans, but it was enough, like if it was about how much I would get paid as a grad student, I had enough money to hire a maid and to stay kind of like in a mansion. So it was cool. I never ever had to think about, oh my God, I need to save this money for this. I'm not gonna say you have enough money to save $1,000 a month, but you're gonna have enough money to survive off of. And then they also have accident sickness benefits, and they are very robust because when I got to my country, I did actually get in an accident and everything was completely covered. My commission looked out for me almost better than my family would. And so don't worry, they're going to be on your side, and if anything happens, you will be covered and there won't be anything or cost to you. Now, other possible benefits. Now, these possible benefits depend on your country and what they offer. And so when you go to the Fullbright website and you click on the country that you're interested in, you will see this list of other benefits. And so some countries offer support for dependents. And so sometimes you can bring your kids. I have friends who brought their kids or they brought their husbands with them. And so they can give you money for that, but it depends on the country. For research, you may be able to get a research allowance. I got a small research allowance to try to help. If you are doing one of those grants that incorporates education, you may get tuition, you may get language lessons, and other benefits. Now, this is one of the things that I think isn't highlighted a lot, and that is after your grant, you get access to this network of alumni that are literally some of the best researchers and some of the best people around the world. And so you are eligible, to talk to them, to reach out to them. And for me, it feels like you're part of a family. And so I reached out in our network just to be like, hey, I am in your state. Can you help me? And people will respond really fast and help out. The other thing is that the State Department has an alumni website, and it is so amazing the things that they give you. And they sometimes offer grants specific for alumni. They have programs that help you prepare for your career. And then you get access to EBSCO so that you can still do research even when you graduate. And I think that was important for me because I think at some point I was kind of traveling for 3 to 6 months, and I really needed to pull up an article and try to do some literature research, and that helped me pull up some of those papers that weren't open. Now, when you come back from your grant, you can get you're eligible for 12 months of non-competitive eligibility hiring status within the federal government, and that's really nice if you want to get a government job. You also get a lifetime Fullbright email address. And then there's this organization called the Fullbright Association, which I am a member of, and they do activities. So there are chapters in different states, and they do programming to get you to be involved with Fullbright. And so recently, in this COVID pandemic, one of the chapters had a cooking lesson. They had hired a cooking school, and so I was able to virtually do a cooking class, and I had invited my mom, and it was really fun to have that. And they have annually conferences, and they would alternate between having it in the US and having it abroad. And so I was lucky to go to the one in Puebla, Mexico, and it's amazing to be there, to network, to see what people are doing around the world, and to see how big this network actually is. And so if you get that Fullbright again, you are joining a family, and you'll be a Fullbrighter for life. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the application components. So first, you're going to do your basic personal data and program information. So you're gonna write an abstract, you're gonna say what country you're gonna go to. It's really specific about what you're gonna do. Now we're gonna talk about the meat of the application. You're gonna have to write 2 essays. All right, one of them is gonna be a statement of grant purpose. The other is a personal statement. And so I'm gonna talk about the research and study grant first. And so for this statement of purpose, it's gonna say who you wanna work with, or where you want to work with. Why did you want to go to this country? How are you going to do this project? Why? So you're going to answer those questions. You're going to also say, why are you qualified to do this research? You also going to have to include a statement about, the cultural exchange that you're going to undertake. And so this is kind of like a side project. And so, on one hand, Fullbright wants you to do research. They want you to have those collaborations. But the goal of Fullbright is to foster mutual understanding. And so one component that you have to do is you need to talk about, what are you going to bring to this country? And what are you going to bring back to our country? And so what that looks like is it's whatever you want this project to be. You need to be unique. You're going to create your own project, but do not skip it. So for me, I wrote about that I'm a Mississippian. I'm a Southerner. When you travel, you do not see a lot of Southerners. In addition, I'm first generation, low income. I'm from a city that has 2,000 people. So all of this plays a part of what makes me me. And so when I wrote my grant, I told them that I was going to talk about, being a Southerner, about our food, about barbecue, about the blues, and share that with people. And when I got to Poland, I realized, yes, a lot of people had interacted with Southerners, but a lot more had never even interacted with an African American or a black person. And so as I worked there, my project changed. It shifted. And so my community engagement program, or the part where you're going to become a cultural ambassador, it became that I went around Poland to universities and I talked about basically black history and what it's like to be up to this point. And that was because for me, a lot of people asked me questions like, where are you from? And I would say I'm American. And they would ask me, where are my parents from? And I would say, they're American. And then Super Bowl people would say, where are your grandparents from? And I'm like, America. And so that's when I realized that a lot of people didn't know or didn't make that connection that African Americans had been in America since before the country became a country. And so that's what I wanted to share. And I had so many talks or open forums that were unique, and you'll never know, how many people actually cared about African American history and how many people knew about it and knew our culture. And so I talked about that, and I had the opportunity to learn a lot about Polish culture through these interactions. And so when I came back to America, I could talk about, what it was like living in Poland and some of the things that happened to me. And so you need to make sure that you think about being that cultural ambassador, because like I said, you may be the first American these people have ever interacted with. And so you are giving that impression of what it's like to be an American. And so remember that when you go abroad. So the other kind of statement is for ETAs, our English teaching assistantships. It's about a page. And for this, you're going to write about, why you want to go to this country. And you're going to talk about like past experiences. So how you qualified to be a teacher, why you want to teach English, that kind of things. What's your teaching style? Now the other kind of essay is a personal statement, and it's only one page. So what you don't want to do is just write your resume, because in some of those basic information you already wrote it. So you're gonna say, why do you want? So what motivates you? And so for me, I wanted to, go to Poland. I wanted to do my dissertation research. But on another level, I want to go into global health. And so I wanted to have these international experiences. Now, the other thing you have to do, you're going to have to do a foreign language evaluation. And it depends on your country if you need to have a certain level of that language. In Poland, I did not need to know Polish. I just needed to know English. But some countries may be like, you need to know Spanish or you need to know French. So you need to check that country specific website. The other thing is that you need 3 letters of reference. You also may need a campus committee evaluation. And so for the campus committee evaluation, people can apply to Fullbright 2 ways. In one way is at large, which means you're not affiliated with a university in the United States. And the other way is through your university. And so if you're going through your university, I think you'll need that campus committee evaluation. You also need to turn in your transcripts. But one thing about Fulbright isn't that you need a certain GPA. So when they're looking at these transcripts, they're not looking for you to have a 4.0 because my GPA was nowhere near a 4.0. What they're looking for is to see if you have those classes that'll have you prepared to do this research or do this, to teach this English or whatever. So, I mean, it's kind of impossible or weird to say that I was getting my PhD in biochemistry and the project that I proposed could be that I want to study Polish language. And I never took a class on Polish. I never took a class on linguistics. So that's kind of some of the things that they might be looking for on these transcripts. Now, when you're doing a research or a study application, you do need an affiliation letter. And I think this is one of the most important things for that grant is that you need to reach out to somebody in another country and get them to write a letter that says, yes, you can come, this project is something that I reviewed. I think it's feasible. I think we have the lab space for that. I think we can support them. And you need somebody to do that for you. This isn't something that you can get last minute. So there are multiple ways you can get affiliation letters. And I have done it multiple ways. So one way, the easiest way is to reach out to your network and basically see if you know somebody, if you can get somebody to like introduce you to somebody. So for my Fullbright, I asked my professor, did they know anybody that was in Poland? And he was like, yeah, my friend's in Poland. Here's his email address. Let him know that you worked with me, and that was it. But another time, I wanted to do a program, and it was in Asia, and I knew nobody in Asia. I would ask around. Nobody knew anyone who was doing research in Asia. And so I literally got on the internet, and I Googled my research topic, and I started looking at the papers that have been published, and I scrolled through those papers to see where they were published at, and I would look at the affiliation on the email. On the top of the article, and I would just email those people. I had to email like 100 people before one person said, yes, you can do your research here. And that's one thing you need to know with these things is that you can apply for 1,000 things and you can get rejection letters 1,000 times. But don't give up hope because you only need that one. And once you get that one, you're good. All right? And if you are going for an arts project, you may need supplemental materials. And it depends on that country and that award, so you have to look at that specifically. Now, factors in selection. Like I said before, the feasibility of this proposal. Like, can you get it done in 10 months? The quality of it. Your professional and academic record. Does it say that this is a project that you're qualified to do? your personal qualifications. Do you have the language required? And then there are some preference factors depending on the country, such as the extent to which the candidate in the project will help advance the Fullbright program goals. There are also requirements of the program in individual countries. So a lot of times when I'm talking about this, I am saying Poland, but that's because that's where I went. Every country has its own board, its own application process, its own everything. And so everything depends on where you want to go. All right, and then there's also this desirability of achieving diversity. Here is the application timeline. So normally you would try to start working on this project or designing your project April to September. If you are going through a campus, they will set their own campus deadline, and that can be between August and September. And so for me, I went through my university, and so at the campus level, what they do is basically make you submit everything, and then they review it for you. They give you comments about it, and then they may do like an interview so that they can write that campus board letter for you. All right, and then October 6th, 2020 is the actual deadline this year. The deadline every year for the national application is around October. So even if you're not applying this year and you're thinking about applying next year, the app is going to be due around October. Now, between November to December, the U.S. On the U.S. side, they're going to screen it, and then they're going to forward the finalists over to the Fullbright commissions and our U.S. embassy in that country, and then they're going to review it. And so for me, the review process, you're like, is so long, but the wait is worth it. And it depends on the country when they're going to get back to you. It's going to depend on whether or not you're going to have to do an interview. And so for my country, I think they got back to us in February and March. Then I had to have a 10-minute interview. And then around March to April, they let us know. But it depends on your country, because some letters don't get out until as late as June. And that's when you'll know if you are a finalist, an alternate, or you didn't get selected. So, in closing, if you want to learn more about the Fullbright program, you can watch our webinars at us.fulbrightonline.org. And I have been on some of those webinars, so look out for my face. You can email Fulbright at fulbrightstudent@iie.org. Check out the website. Remember, you need to look at country specifics depending on what country you want to go to. You can watch videos at vimeo.com/Fulbright or at youtube.com/Fullbright Program. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me, my email is p.white.alumniambassador@fulbright.org. Fulbrightmail.org. Alright, so that's all I have. I'm looking forward to getting questions from you guys. And remember, just because you don't know someone who's gotten a Fulbright doesn't mean that you won't get one. So try and try again. Alright, bye.